feels like ages ago, that win over Edinburgh.
Yeah.
How have you coped with no fixtures?
I think, it was pretty well, really, because it's nice having a break in the season, especially when you're pretty depleted, because it gives you a chance to recharge mentally and physically, because you're putting a lot of the same load and effort into the same players. You can go back and polish up parts of your game, and all coaches like to be able to do that without the pressure of putting a performance together. And it was good to get the win at Edinburgh to get some momentum into that block. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting going at Zebre again this week.
A few of your Welsh boys with the national side, how do you feel they went? How do you feel Wales went generally?
Well, I mean, from the stuff that you guys have written, you know that Dowie Lake and Jack Morgan were standout performers in difficult, trying circumstances, and that's no surprise from my perspective, because they are generally very, very good, exceptional players for us and for Wales. So, and I know that we had some players that didn't feature quite as much as they'd wanted to for various reasons. So, yeah, probably a mixed bag in relation to from an Ospreys contingent. The big, obviously, downer is Adam Beard's injury, which is going to be a long-term one. A few months to go on that. So, yeah, that's the biggest kick in the teeth, really, because he's such an important part of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely, and Wales missed him as well. So a few months. How?
It'll be three.
Exactly.
It'll be at least three.
So that's the at least the start of the Six Nations. And from an Ospreys point of view, it's obviously this next block of fixtures up until the Six Nations is pretty vital for you in multiple competitions.
Yeah, multiple competitions. Obviously, that we like Europe and take that seriously. Enjoy that. We've had good experiences there over the last couple of years, whether it be Champions Cup and beating champions of France and England, or getting to knockouts and winning knockout games in Europe. So, from that point of view, to not have him around for that is difficult. But it provides the opportunity for other boys to step up, and James Fender being back is good, and Rhys Davies is not too far away now, which is good. So, we just got to weather the storm for a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of Zebre, then, the Wales players, is it a case of managing them? And you mentioned Jack and Dowie. Obviously, they had a lot of game time over the last month. Do they come straight back into the equation? Or
well, they can. I mean, obviously, they're available. I think that you've got to take it on a case-by-case basis. You've got to protect the player from themselves a little bit. But also you've got to see. This week was establishing on those individuals or all of them who were, mentally and physically able to produce, because it's all very well being back, but you've still got to produce. You've got to be fair to the team, people that they're replacing. So, some are gonna participate, some are not, but everyone should be back on deck for the start of Europe the following week.
Good stuff, and hopefully hitting the ground running. It's their bottom, obviously, but it's not easy. Parma, they beat Munster early in the season. There,
they challenged. They were really tough at home last year. They were really tough away last year. They've had a break, a reset. And the season starts again. I think I don't think there's much between a lot of the teams, and often it's about how you apply yourself on the day and what you've got available on the day. So, obviously they'll have Italian players that are either coming back or not coming back, and different experiences as well. And they're at home starting off block 2, and they'll want to get there. They'll be full of enthusiasm because they'll want to, get their season on track too. So from that point of view, it's going to be a tough ask for sure.
Lovely. Just lastly, obviously Adam's not available. Anyone else out of the equation this weekend?
Not too much. I think our attitude is, we've got what we've got. We'll have to do what we can do with what we've got, and we'll drip feed these back. As I've said, the notable thing is obviously Beardy's out, but Fender is back, which is good. We've got some returning boys that will play a part, which is good. But yeah, we've got to manage our resources a little bit, and the boys that put the shirt on, I know will give their anything and give it their best, and that's all we can ask.
Thanks, Toby.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Hi Toby, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Having had a break from the URC, what are the sort of key areas you think the Ospreys have to improve on to get better in the second block of fixtures and moving into Europe?
I think that we've had to adapt a little bit, and I think we saw a lot of that in the Edinburgh game, where we just had to be a bit smarter because we haven't got the same resources that we normally have. So we've had to adapt and shift a bit. So I think that needs to continue to be a smart team overall. I think that when you play against teams that are physically bigger than you or have certain attributes, I think that you need to understand how to play against those sort of teams. So it's a bit like Wales versus South Africa. We're not going to go through the front door there in relation to you've got to move them around and play a faster, a higher speed game to try and make it a level playing field. So certain aspects where we did that well, certain aspects we didn't. And obviously, as resources come back, you can still keep your DNA of your team strong. So I think it's really been the subtle stuff for us, and be better at what we want to be better at. There's no revolution. It's just about we probably were guilty of a little bit too more errors in key times in the game. So we need to win a few more moments. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Not to try and dodge the question. It's just you need in this when you're not. When you're not performing as well as you'd like, sometimes it comes down to, often it comes down to key moments, and for us, we probably didn't win as many of those as we had done previously, and so we've talked a little bit about the mentality of that, and it's a very multi-layered thing.
Yeah, James Fender was excellent last season. What have you missed when he's not been playing? What is he going to sort of add to the team, do you think?
Well, I think the first thing is we need to be mindful of the injuries. He's come back. He's been away for a long time, so we have to manage our expectations around him. He's a very young player that's just had effectively a breakthrough season of 10 games, etc. So, firstly, we need to manage our expectations. Secondly, is he's a physical specimen that can impose himself, both in a set piece point of view, but certainly defensively. He's a big man. So from that point of view, I think any rugby coach is going to talk to you about wanting as much physicality as you can. So getting him back in those attributes alone, and if he can get back to the levels that he signed off on at the end of last year, then we'll be a better team because of it.
Is Morgan Morse fit now?
No, he won't be fit probably until the Scarlets game.
Right. Okay. Well, Will Griff's back, is he?
He's back. Yep, he's back. He's obviously played one game. We've obviously, with him, the length of injury that he's had, we've got to be very careful about making sure that we don't set him up to fail. So we've got to make sure that he's physically almost perfect, because he hasn't got the historical training base that others have had if they've been out for a couple of weeks. He's been out for over a year. So from that point of view, we just need to be very, very careful with him.
Yeah. After Wales's defeat to South Africa, Warren Gatland was asked what needs to sort of be better about in terms of preparing players for Test rugby, and I don't think he was having a dig at anyone, but he mentioned that perhaps the conditioning across the board needs to be better. And I'm just keen to get your thoughts on that. I mean, you've been in England as well, so you've experienced other environments. Does it need to be better? Is there anything we can do to get better at that?
I think the first thing is, whatever your conditioning levels are, it has to be aligned to how you want to play the game. So that's the first thing. So, if you're going to play fast, or you're going to play physical, or you're going to play meters through contact, or whatever. So it has to be all joined up. It's just not just one thing. So that's the first thing I think people need to be mindful of. It needs to be connected to something. I think that rugby, international rugby, even region rugby has a very high toll on your body, and so I'm as interested in the recovery side of things and making sure people are at their prime to play every time they take the field, and obviously from our point of view, smaller squads, we don't have the luxury of, then going to pick another one up. We have to manage with what we've got, so we have to be very mindful of that. And conditioning is not going to change in a week or two. You need to, if you're going to influence change around physical preparation, you need to take, a longer term approach. So the influence of the influence of on any player needs to be taken sort of across a season, across a block, across years really, especially if you're developing young players. So I think it's not as simple as go, we want to be fit or we want to be this. That there's a lot of planning and programming that have to be put into that on an individual basis. But again, it has to be connected to the type you want. So it's a very difficult question to answer really. I think that the danger with a lot of young players is they're not all physically developed to the same level that you'd like them to be, and it's very difficult to learn on the job because you can't play and improve those metrics easily, because actually you need to push the extremes, which basically means you're probably not going to be able to play. But there's such a necessity for players to play. For example, we've done an audit on our first block. We've used more transition players in this block than we've used in the whole of last year. So there's a greater reliance on just getting people out there. And if we're going to change things, I think the squad numbers and the ability to be able to prioritise individual development is something that we need to have a look at for sure.